If you grew up hearing, "Stop crying," or "I'll give you a reason to cry," maybe it's time you heard something no one told you back then. That wasn't good manners. That was harmful. Today, psychology clearly understands that some phrases that seemed perfectly normal in your childhood left marks that you carry to this day. Marks that appear in the way you apologize when someone bumps into you, in the way you close the door holding the handle so as not to make noise, in the way you never, ever ask for help, even when you need it, and you didn't even know you came from there. We're going to go through 15 of these phrases together. Some will hurt, some you'll recognize from the first syllable. But by the end of this video, you'll understand why you are the way you are. And more importantly, why it was never, at any point, your fault. And pay attention, because in item 11, I'm going to show you the most dangerous phrase of all. The one that sounds like a compliment, the one that sounds like affection, but which, in reality, is the one that most deeply affects a child for life. You've probably heard this phrase, and you probably never thought of it as a problem. Before we begin, subscribe to the channel. This is where we talk about things that no one has dared to explain to you before. Subscribing is free, and it really helps us continue bringing you this kind of content. So take a deep breath. Let's begin. Phrase number 1. Stop crying, or I'll give you a reason to cry. If you heard this as a child, you might have thought it was just a harsh way of educating. It wasn't. It was one of the most effective ways to teach a child that feeling is dangerous. Think about what that phrase does inside a small child's head. They are crying because they are in pain, scared, or simply because they are a child. And instead of being comforted, they receive a threat. The message that reaches their brain is direct. If you express what you feel, you'll be punished for it. So, today, you're that person who can't cry even when you should, who holds back tears at funerals, who feels a lump in their throat in the car, alone, after a difficult meeting, but doesn't let it fall, who feels ashamed when a tear escapes in public. This has a name. It's called emotional repression. It's what happens when a child learns too early that their feelings are inconvenient, and as an adult, they continue to swallow everything, not because they are strong, but because they were trained to do so. And if that first sentence already affected you, get ready, because the next one is even more common. Phrase number 2. Children are meant to be seen, not heard. This phrase has spanned entire generations. It was uttered as if it were common wisdom, but what it truly communicates to a child is devastating. Your presence is tolerated, but your voice is a problem. When a child grows up hearing this, they learn to keep themselves small, not to interrupt, not to give their opinion, not to draw attention to themselves, not to overemphasize themselves. So, today, you're that adult who apologizes for asking a question in a meeting, who feels awkward at a dinner party, who avoids expressing your own opinion because you're afraid of taking up space, who feels like a burden even when you receive an invitation. This is emotional invisibility. You were taught that simply existing was already enough, and you carry that with you to this day, even without realizing it. Phrase number 3. Children have no feelings. This is perhaps one of the cruelest things because it denies the child's very humanity. When an adult says this, they are literally saying, what you feel isn't real. It doesn't count. It doesn't matter. And a child's brain can't argue with that. It accepts it. It retains it. It learns it. Then years later, someone asks you, how are you feeling? And your mind simply goes blank. It's not that you're hiding it. It's that you genuinely don't know. The words to describe what you feel were never taught to you. You've spent your whole life without a name for your own emotions. This has a technical name, alexithymia. It's the difficulty in identifying and naming what one feels. And no, this isn't coldness. This is a child who was taught that feeling wasn't allowed. Phrase number 4. Stop whining. That's not what you're feeling at all. This phrase is such a subtle form of manipulation that psychology has a specific term for it: gaslighting. And when it comes from parents, it's even more devastating because the child has no other frame of reference for reality. You say, I'm sad, and the response is, no, you're not. You're just sleepy. You say, I'm scared, and the response is, that's just being dramatic. You say, I'm hurt, and the response is, it doesn't hurt at all. Get up. Small? It may seem small, but this, repeated for years, does a terrible thing. It destroys the child's confidence in their own perception of the world. And now, As an adult, you doubt everything. Am I really feeling this? Am I exaggerating? Did this person really hurt me? Or am I just too sensitive? You need someone else to validate what you feel, because your internal compass was broken too soon. It's not insecurity. It's a consequence. Phrase number 5. You're so mature for your age. That sounds like a compliment, right? It was probably said with pride. Your mother probably smiled when she heard it from a neighbor or a teacher. But pay attention to what's underneath. A child who is too mature for their age is almost always a child who had to grow up too fast, who took care of a younger sibling, who listened to their parents' problems when they should have been playing, who learned to read adults' moods so as not to do anything wrong. This also has a name. It's called parentification. When a child becomes the caregiver for their own parents, even if no one has officially asked for it. And today, you're the person who takes care of everyone. The friend psychologist. The one who can read a room in 3 seconds. The one who carries other people's problems as if they were your own. But when you need help, you have no one. Because you never learned to be cared for. You only learned to care. Phrase number 6. I work all day to give you everything, and you still nag? This phrase teaches a child something very specific. My love for you is a demand. You owe me for being alive. A child who hears this no longer asks for anything. They don't ask for attention. They don't ask for cuddles. They don't ask for help with their homework, because any request becomes a reminder that they are a burden. And today, you are that adult who feels guilty for resting, who feels guilty for spending money on yourself, who feels guilty when asking your partner for a glass of water, who lives with the feeling that you need to justify your own existence through productivity. This is what psychology calls the utility trap. You only feel worthy of existing when you are being useful to someone. In silence, resting still, you feel indebted. Before we continue, do one thing for me. If you recognized yourself in at least one sentence so far, leave a like on this video. And in the comments, tell me which one resonated with you the most. Not to reopen the wound, but so that other people see they're not alone. This channel only grows when you interact, and each comment helps reach more people who need to hear this. Let's move on to the next one. Phrase number 7. If you weren't like this, I would love you more. This phrase may have come directly, or it may have come disguised. Look at your cousin, so sweet. Why can't you be like your brother? You would be perfect if you weren't like that. The message is the same. The love you receive is conditional. To be loved, you need to stop being who you are. So, today, you're the kind of person who changes personality depending on who's around. You become a chameleon. You can be funny with one group, serious with another, gentle with another, aggressive with yet another, not because you're fake, but because you never knew who you were without the filter of approval. You've spent your whole life trying to figure out which version of yourself would be loved. And when you're alone, a painful question hits you. Who am I when no one's watching? Phrase number 8. You're just like your father. Or, just like your mother. Usually said with contempt. Usually said in the middle of a fight. Usually coming from the person who hurt you the most. When a child hears this, they learn that there are parts of themselves that are intolerable, that they carry a factory defect, that they come from someone that nobody wants to see in the mirror. And today, you hate parts of yourself. You look in the mirror and see your father's eyes and feel a tightness in your chest. You hear your own laughter and think, my God, I look like my mother. You catch yourself making a gesture, a grimace, and feel disgusted. This is the rejection of identity. You were taught to hate half of who you are. And you carry that hatred to this day, without understanding where it comes from. Phrase number 9. Swallow those tears. Or, for many boys, men don't cry. This phrase is a literal sentence. It tells the child to physically swallow the emotion that's trying to get out. And the body learns. The body learns to close the throat, to tighten the chest, to hold its breath, to transform crying into anger, anger into silence, silence into distance. So, today, are you the kind of person who feels a knot in your chest for no reason? Who has stomach aches during stressful times? Who sleeps poorly? Who has constant tension in your shoulders that no massage can resolve? It's no coincidence. It's your body holding back what your mouth could never say. Psychology calls this body dissociation. You disconnected from your own body, so you wouldn't have to feel what it wanted to feel. Phrase number 10. I did everything for you, and this is how you repay me. This is the phrase that creates a lifelong emotional debt. The child who hears it understands, at some deep level, that they will never be free, that everything they receive, they will have to give back, doubled, for the rest of their life. And today, you're that adult who can't receive gifts, who feels awkward when someone gives you a present, who desperately tries to return a favor as quickly as possible, who's afraid of being indebted to anyone, because in your mind, debt becomes blackmail. That's the trap of reciprocity. You can't receive love without distrusting it, without wondering, what will this person want from me afterwards? And now, get ready, because we've arrived at the item I promised you at the beginning. Phrase number 11, you are strong. You can handle it. There you have it. The phrase that sounds like a compliment. The phrase that sounds like affection. The phrase that many people will read now and think, but what's wrong with that? Everything. There's everything wrong with that. When said the wrong way, at the wrong time, to a child who's crying for help. Think about it. The child arrives crying, hurt, scared, saying they can't cope. And the adult replies, you're strong. You can handle it. What does this child learn? They learn that the only way to be loved is by pretending not to need anything. They learn that asking for help is a failure. They learn that vulnerability is weakness. They learn that being loved requires pretending everything is all right. And then she grows up and becomes that person everyone admires. Wow, so-and-so is so strong. I don't know how she endures so much. She never complains. But what about inside? Inside, there's a silent collapse. A weariness that won't go away. An urge to scream that never finds the right time to come out. You are the kind of person who faces surgery alone, who moves to a new city without asking anyone for help, who discovers a serious illness and only tells their family 3 months later, who cries in the shower so no one hears, who celebrates their birthday alone and says, I prefer it this way. No, you don't prefer it. You just never learned that you deserve to be cared for. This is hyper-independence. But not in the nice way society sells it. It's in the sense of emotional fortitude. You've built walls so high that no one can get in anymore. Not even the people who truly love you. And the worst part is this. You're proud of it. You think it's your greatest quality. But it's not. It's your biggest wound, disguised as a virtue. You are not strong. You are tired. And you have permission today to let it go. Phrase number 12. You're making it up. That didn't happen. This is the epitome of gaslighting, when someone hurts you and then denies hurting you. When you remember a scene and are told your memory is wrong. When you confront a situation and are told, how dramatic, that never happened. A child who grows up hearing this forgets how to trust their own memory, their own perception, their own reality. And today, you are the kind of person who doubts what you've experienced, who wonders if you exaggerated, who asks other people to confirm obvious things, who writes in a diary to have proof that it really happened, who feels a constant confusion about your own past. You're not crazy. You've been trained to distrust yourself. Phrase number 13. Look what you made your mother do. Or, see, you made me cry. This phrase creates a monstrous inversion. It removes emotional responsibility from the adult and places it on the child's shoulders. It makes an 8-year-old child feel responsible for their mother's tears. And today, you feel guilty about everything. When someone around you is unwell, you think it's your fault. When your partner is in a bad mood, you wonder what you did wrong. When your boss is stressed, you think you let him down. You grew up being the emotional caregiver for your own parents. And you never managed to switch off that role. You are still today the emotional barometer for everyone around you. Accept yourself. Phrase number 14. You should be ashamed of feeling this way. This phrase plants a particularly poisonous seed, toxic shame. Not the healthy shame of a one-off mistake, but the shame of existing the way you exist. You're ashamed of crying, of being angry, of wanting attention, of having desire, of wanting to be loved, of asking for comfort, of feeling homesick, of feeling jealous, of being tired. And then you spend your whole life hiding half of who you are, because you were taught that that half is disgusting, showing everyone only the polished version of yourself, the version that doesn't cause trouble. And nobody ever truly knows you, not even yourself. And then, finally, sentence number 15, the last one, the one that hurts differently. I didn't even want to have children anyway. It may have come from a fight. It may have come from a venting of frustration. It may have come from a casual phrase, almost unintentionally. But for the child who heard it, it was never, ever forgotten. Because this phrase answers the deepest question a child can ask. Am I welcome in this world? And the answer that came was, no. And today, you're that person who never feels at home anywhere, who feels like an outsider in any group, who walks into a party and is already planning their exit, who is certain, deep down, that if you disappear, nobody will miss you. This is existential rejection, the feeling that you don't belong, that your presence in the world is an accident, that if you hadn't been born, the lives of the people who raised you would be easier. And I need to tell you something right now, looking you straight in the eyes. You were mistaken. They were the ones who were wrong. If you recognized yourself in 3, 5, or all 15 sentences we shared today, take a breath. You are not alone. You never were. There's an entire generation that grew up hearing these phrases. An entire generation that's only now discovering, after 40, 50, 60, 70 years of age, why they carry so much weight. Why they can't cry, why they can't receive, why they feel guilty for existing. And no, it wasn't your fault. It never was. Their parents probably repeated what they heard. And their parents, what they heard. That doesn't excuse the damage that was done, but it explains where it came from. And knowing where it comes from is the first step to stopping carrying it. Today, you are allowed to cry what you couldn't cry back then. You're allowed to feel anger. You are allowed to grieve for the child you once were. You are allowed to care for that child that no one else cared for, because now, finally, you are the adult she waited for. And before you leave this video, do one last thing for me. Write in the comments the phrase that most impacted you, not to reopen the wound, but so that another person, somewhere in the world, reads your comment and realizes they're not alone. This is the kind of community we're building here. Leave a like too. It really helps the channel reach more people who need this validation today. And if this video touched you, I've left another one appearing on the screen that's the perfect continuation of this one. It will show you how these childhood wounds transform into behaviors you do every day without realizing it. Click on it. It will be well worth it. You weren't difficult. You weren't excessive. You weren't too much. You were just a child who deserved to be heard, and still deserves it.